Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the 980s podcast station. And today we're having another session with Econ 101 here on the 980s podcast station. As I always say, please subscribe to the channel if you find this information unique, valuable, providing some clarity. And today we're talking about the Gen X sandwich. Yes, I'm a Gen Xer. There's a financial reality for a lot of us Gen Xers right now that a lot of people aren't thinking about or even talking about. We're getting squeezed. On one side, we have children. Some of them are living at home. Some of them are in college. Some of them are graduating, but still need some financial help. Maybe you're helping them with rent, car, insurance, healthcare, or just trying to get them started in life. On the other side, we have our aging parents. Parents who have been completely independent for 5, 10, for decades. But 5, 10 years ago, they're now reaching an age where things are starting to change. You started noticing some things about them. Health begins to change, memory begins to change, mobility changes, and eventually the financial responsibility begins to change as well. Suddenly you're in this middle, and I call it the Gen X sandwich. So today on this Econ 101, that's what we're talking about. So without further ado, come on in. So we're talking about the Gen X sandwich. And again, the problem isn't simply that you may have to help your parents financially. No, that's not what we're talking about. The bigger problem is that one day you may have to help your parents manage their entire lives. And if you wait until something happens to figure this out and figure how all this works, you've waited too long. So let's go into this. Talk about this responsibility that is shifting for most of our lives, right? Our parents were the ones taking care of us, taking care of things. They paid the bills, made the decisions. They knew where everything was, their passwords. They knew what insurance company they had. They knew where the deed of the house was. They knew the bank accounts. They knew where their keys were. And again, I have been one to forget where my keys are. We are all having this happen to us more and more often. But then something happens. It may be gradual. Maybe it's dementia. Maybe it's mobility issues. Maybe it's cancer. Maybe it's a stroke. Or maybe it's completely unexpected. One phone call, one hospital visit, one accident. Why am I saying these things? Because I just lived through this. And suddenly, the relationship changes. You aren't calling your mom and dad asking them what you should do anymore. People are calling you asking what should be done for your mom and or dad. And that transition can happen faster than people realize. That's why these conversations need to happen while everyone is healthy. Because there's something we all know. Our parents are getting older. And eventually one of them or both of them is going to pass away. It's 100% certainty. That is life. So one of the few things in the financial planning that I talk about with 100% certainty is when this happens, not if it happens, but when this happens. But the question is, why do so many of us refuse to plan for it? So for me, my family, my parents, we set up a revocable living trust for the family, right? This is where I hear something all the time about, hey, we're good. My mom has a trust. Okay, well, that's fine. What does the trust actually do? Most of the times, people don't even fund the trust properly. There's nothing inside of it. It's just having an expensive piece of paper. But here's the reality. We got to know these things like who's the trustee? Who's the successor trustee? What assets are actually titled in the trust name? Who has the authority over the assets that aren't in the trust? Who has financial POA? Who has medical POA? Who is listed on the bank accounts? Who can speak with their financial advisor if they have one? Who can sit and talk to the insurance companies? What about Social Security? What if they had railroad retirement? What about their pensions? Who can access a simple safe deposit box? Having a trust is not the same thing as having a plan. And this is where families get themselves into trouble. So let's make an important distinction here. I want to make an important distinction here. If your parents have a revocable living trust, that trust generally doesn't simply disappear when your parents die. It typically becomes irrevocable, and the successor trustee steps in and administers the trust according to the terms of that trust. But a power of attorney is vastly different. This is what people get. This is where people get confused. Power of attorney generally ends at death. So if you have a power of attorney on your parents' assets and one of them passes away, you no longer have power of attorney on that individual's assets. That authority that you had yesterday to help mom pay bills or dad pay bills is gone. It doesn't necessarily exist after someone passes away. Now you're dealing with the executor, successor trustee, beneficiaries, and whatever the estate plan says that was established. So there are really multiple planning periods while they're healthy, if they become incapacitated, and after they die. Those are three different situations, and your family needs a plan for all three. So let's go to access. Access without ownership. I've just recently learned this, and I've made the adjustments. Here's one of the mistakes families make. Well, just put my name on mom's bank account. No, no. There's a difference between having authority or visibility over an account and actually becoming an owner of that account. You don't necessarily want to become a joint owner just because you're trying to help your parents. Joint ownership can create legal issues, estate issues, creditor and tax consequences depending on the type of account and the circumstances. Instead, what you're trying to accomplish is this: access without unnecessary ownership. I'm telling you this because I'm recently gone through all of this. Maybe that's a properly drafted, durable financial power of attorney. Maybe the financial institution has its own authorization forms, which most likely they do. The banks are going to want you to go in and follow their procedures. A lot of times, some banks don't even take a power of attorney seriously. They'll be like, okay, well, we need the individual to come up. Maybe your parent can just add you as an authorized or interested party where the institution permits it. Maybe you receive a duplicate statements or account alerts. Maybe you're established as a trusted contact on an investment account. But here's something important. A trusted contact is generally not the same thing as somebody who can transact on a single account. These terms matter. The objective is to establish the appropriate level of access and authority before you need it. Because you don't want to discover after mom or dad has a stroke that the bank won't talk to you. You don't want to find out after dad or mom develops dementia that nobody knows his password. You don't want to be standing inside a hospital trying to determine who actually has medical authority. Handle this today. Now let's talk about the digital estate. This is something that our parents' generation didn't have to deal with when their parents passed away, the digital side of things. Think about how much of your parents' lives now exists behind a password. emails, bank accounts, investment accounts, credit cards, cell phones, insurance, utilities, social media, subscriptions, cloud storage, photos. So I sound like an R&B song or rap song. Tax records, maybe even cryptocurrency. And what is actually the key to everything? Their email account and their phone. Think about it. You have every estate document perfectly prepared. You can have everything, but no one knows the passcode to your dad's phone. Now you can't get into the email. Now you can't receive authentication codes. Authentication codes, guys. Because those authentication codes, the multi-factor is going to come to the phone so you can go into his account. You can't get into his bank account because you don't have access to his phone. You can't reset passwords. And suddenly something that should take 5 minutes takes 5 weeks. Families need digital inventory. Don't necessarily mean writing every password on a piece of paper because you know why? Those passwords change. But use a secure system, a secure vault, whatever makes sense to you and your family. But somebody needs to know where the information is and how to legally access it when necessary. Ask yourself these questions. Where are the passwords? Where are the keys? Is there a safe? Is there a deposit box? Where is that key? Who has the access to these things? Where is the original estate documents? Where is the deed? Who has the attorney's phone number? Who's the CPA? Financial advisor if they have one. Where are the tax returns? And where are the insurance policies? You're basically creating an instruction manual for your parents' financial lives. Do it today. These are the conversations no one's having. And then we get to that uncomfortable conversation, death. Nobody wants to sit down with their parents and say, what do you want us to do when you die? But somebody needs to have that real conversation. Do you want to be buried, cremated? Is there a burial plot? Has anything been prepaid, right? Is there a funeral home? Do you want a funeral, memorial service, something private? Are there religious considerations, military benefits? Who needs to be contacted? What does mom want? What does dad want? And most importantly, does somebody else know? Because when somebody dies, emotions take over. People are grieving. Family members are flying into town. Everyone and everybody has an opinion. And now you're trying to make thousands of dollars worth of decisions in 48 hours while emotionally devastated. That's terrible time, terrible planning. Your parents should have the opportunity to tell you that what they want while they can still tell you. And frankly, there's some peace in that. You're no longer guessing. You're following instructions. It's important because you want to know, hey, like I'm gonna be vulnerable for a second. I wish I had known that if my dad would have said, you know what, if it goes like this, I don't want that. But we never had that conversation. We never had the conversation of like, hey, if it looks like this, I would rather do this. We never had that conversation. So let's talk about the financial sandwich because if we're going to bring this back, I'm a Gen Xer. Because while all this is happening, something else hasn't stopped. My life, my mortgage still is due. My kids still need things. College still needs to be funded. You're trying to save for retirement. Maybe you're trying to help your children buy their first home. Maybe you're paying for a wedding. And now your mom needs help. Your dad needs assisted living. Something needs to be done for them. Someone needs to take time away from work. Somebody has to travel to make appointments. Somebody has to coordinate medications. Somebody has to pay the bills. And even if your parents have money, managing their lives still has a cost. Time. Time is one of those precious commodities you cannot get back. That's the part no one puts on the spreadsheet. Maybe you're using vacation days to take mom to her appointments. Maybe you're flying back and forth across the country. Maybe you're missing work. Maybe you're paying for things and getting reimbursed later. Maybe you're simply spending 10 hours a day, 10 hours a week dealing with paperwork. This is the part of the financial cost of aging. No one understands the time and the energy that's going to take care of your family. For Gen Xers, it's arriving right now. When many of us should be in our peak retirement or accumulation years. That's the squeeze that your kids need to know, your parents need to know, your job needs to know, your spouse needs to know. And somewhere in the middle of all of this, you still got to take care of yourself. So don't destroy your retirement saving everyone else. This is where I'm going to say something that might sound cold. You cannot financially destroy yourself trying to save everybody else. If your parents didn't save enough for retirement, you need to understand what resources are available before automatically writing checks. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, there, boom. Long-term care insurance, if they have it. Veterans benefits when applicable. Pensions, retirement accounts, home equity, other assets. Understand how this stuff works. Get with a financial planner that can help you. Understand the financial picture, because if you're 50 years old and you start pulling money out of your retirement account to support your parents while simultaneously paying for your child's lifestyle, who takes care of you at 75? Your kids? No. And now we've simply moved the problem down another generation. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your family is establish boundaries around what you can actually do and afford. So what you're doing for your parents, do for yourself. This is one of the biggest lessons I've learned. As you're going through your parents' financial lives and saying, why didn't I organize? Why didn't they do this? Why didn't we? Ask yourself the same questions. Do your children know where your documents are? Do your spouse know every account you own? Do they have your passwords? Do they know your financial advisor? Do they know about your life insurance policy? Is your trust funded? Are the beneficiaries updated? Where's the financial power of attorney? Where's the durable power of attorney? Who is the successor trustee? What happens if you die tomorrow? What happens? We get frustrated with our parents for not preparing us while simultaneously failing to prepare our own family. Don't repeat the cycle. So, have a family meeting. Not when someone gets sick, not when someone falls ill, not when there's a diagnosis. Now, sit down with your parents. You don't need to start by asking how much money they have. Start with something like, hey, something happened to you tomorrow. What do you want me to do? What should I know? The question opens the door. Then start building the inventory, the estate documents, financial. We've gone through this several times. Medications, funeral wishes, etc., passwords, keys, safe deposit box, passwords, all this stuff. Who has the ultimate authority to do what? Important contacts. Because information without authority isn't enough. And authority without information isn't enough either. You need both. So finally, let's welcome to the sandwich, Gen X. We're entering this very different stage of life. For decades, we had children. Now we have upgrading parents. And now many of us are becoming something else. We're becoming the caretakers of our parents while still taking care of our children. That's the Gen X sandwich. And you can't prevent aging. You can't prevent death. You can't control when somebody gets sick. But you can't control whether your family is prepared. Get the trust, get the will, get the POAs, but don't stop there. Understand the accounts. Understand who has access. Understand who has authority. Know where the passwords are. Know where the keys are. Know what mom wants. Know what dad wants. Have the uncomfortable conversations while you still have the opportunity to have them. And then go home and do the exact same thing for your family. Because one day your children will be sitting exactly where you are now. The greatest gift you can give them is simply leaving them aware. But the worst gift you could give them is just money. Awareness matters. Let's leave them instructions. Thank you guys for listening to Econ 101. Subscribe to the 9 Innings podcast. I hope this has been a valuable use of your time. This is very important. Stop pushing this off. I went through it myself, and it's time everyone goes through this now. Stay humble, stay safe. See you again soon.